Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
And I'm here to tantalise and haunt your every living moment. Or, just as long as you've got the pod on.
Yeah, so this week, I think I can speak for both of us that with lockdown and everything like that, we're not really in the mood to do serious stuff at the moment, or it's more difficult to get up for it.
There's the phrase doom scrolling has become quite prominent in the last year or so. There's a lot of bad stuff out there, and all the serious stuff is really negative at the moment.
Yeah, and I just find, like, if I'm having a bad day and we do the pod at the moment and we're doing a silly subject, I'm always in a better mood after doing the pod because we're just having a laugh. Whereas if we were to sit and talk about the state of affairs in pretty much any country in the world, bar New Zealand, we'd be pretty upset and, probably depressed by the end of it.
There's way too much negative stuff happening right now, so we don't want to pile onto that. So a lot of the upcoming ones are going to be, they're not going to be, I know a lot of you guys really enjoy the in-depth ones that we do, but they're probably
We've got episode 69 coming up. But yeah, so this week, basically we're trying to get, and also, like, from a selfish point of view, it's far easier to prepare for a silly one than a serious one. But yeah. So this week we are doing one about, so what we're going to do, we've picked some horror stories / ghost stories. We're going to tell them to one another, and we're going to sort of talk about it, take the piss out of it, say how real we think it is, how scary.
Please, we like to show respect. We're not going to take the piss. We're just going to give our honest opinions. And if that happens to fall under the offensive category, then fine. So be it. If we cross some lines, we cross some lines.
I know what we're like. We're going to end up insulting an entire country of people or race of people or, belief system.
Usually happens. Wait. Okay, can I kick things
off? I think our list, I've lost count of how many different groups of people we've probably offended over the last year or so.
I've got a real one that came up the other day, and I've only just remembered it, and I can't believe that I didn't think to bring this to the table. So can I kick it off a little bit?
Yeah, by all means.
So my my mum was telling me that she used to she had some friends that lived in this block of flats, and she used to visit them every now and then. And she said whenever she was hanging outside waiting for them or whatever, she used to feel really creepy and uncomfortable and just not right, man. And a few years after they moved out, it came up that basically that site used to be an old burial ground.
Oh, so it's just creepy to be there in general.
Yeah, but she was like, I've got these real feels, I didn't know it was there. And then I found out it was there, and I was like, man, there are so many people you should tell about that. They'll love that shit.
The thing is, it's a weird one, isn't it? It's a real weird one, those sort of things. I had some... There was a house near where... you used to live near me as well. Do you know where... I'm trying to think of where it's called. Where the Londis is on Wellington Green?
Mm.
Well, just further along, if you go down towards Hatbridge and the Grange, there's the tiny mini pond and then the houses. And there was a house in there that used to be dilapidated and covered in foliage and looked like no one had lived there for years. And there was a rumour that no one lived there, that it was abandoned, but that if you stood outside long enough, an old man would appear in the windows.
Brilliant.
And
probably
he would.
Wonder why people are staring at his fucking house.
So me and my mates, back when we were younger, used to like sneak round there, and we'd stand outside. And one day he genuinely appeared at the windows, and we ran away screaming.
Can I just say this? Doing this during the time of your teens and the peer pressure and whatever. Did anyone offer you to take anything before you went?
No,
were you under any influences?
No, I must have been like, I don't know, 11 or 12.
I just got this picture.
I weren't into hard drugs at 11 or 12,
this old agoraphobic man in his house, and every now and then he's like, the fucking kids are outside again. Just
no, but the house did look creepy, man. No, the house looked creepy, and if there was a man living there, he was living there alone and wasn't looking after himself.
Well, all right, he's a fucking sad, lonely, pathetic man. Why not call the man out even further?
No, but but that was my sort of ghost story, not ghost story.
Your little ghost story.
Yeah. Have you got any?
Personally,
Yeah.
no.
No weird experiences, no
Could you know?
ectoplasm, or
Plenty of ectoplasm. Nothing weird about it.
no, it was all expected.
You know, I'm a bit too skeptical for any of this stuff, and I genuinely can find an explanation for most things. So there's not too many things in my life that I think,
I
oh,
think
that
there's
was a
definitely,
bit.
yeah, like looking back at my one, it was very much a case of it was a very sad, lonely old man that lived in a dilapidated house and didn't look after himself, you know, so it's quite sad, really.
And let's be honest, out of the two scenarios, someone who'd really let themselves go, really let the house go, versus a ghost, one is far more believable.
Yeah. But I suppose when you're younger and like he did look creepy, like he was quite pale, he was huge
Bro,
beard,
you need to stop attacking this
scrumple.
man. Okay, you are
Well,
coming at him on a
to be
personal
honest,
level.
I've been past that house recently. Someone's bought it, so I'm pretty sure he died and it's been sold and
I'm not
renovated.
surprised the shame of getting bullied by you lot. First, you attacked
We
his
did.
personality. You're like, he's sad and pathetic and he's lonely and no one cares for him.
I
And
don't
then you
think
went
I
after his
ever said
looks. He looks
pathetic.
creepy in his beard. No, I might have added that.
I don't
But
think I was going to say. But yeah, he did look creepy. I'm sorry. It's just how it is. But right, should I give you the first story I picked?
yeah, sure.
Right, this one is apparently a true story. It's called the Axe Murder House. The Villisca Axe Murder House in Villisca, Iowa, is a well-known tourist attraction for ghost hunters and horror lovers alike. The site of a gruesome unsolved 1912 murder in which 6 children and 2 adults had their skulls completely crushed by the axe of an unknown perpetrator. The building was purchased in 1994. Oh, that's a. Oh, right, yes, no. It was purchased in 1994 and restored to its 1912 condition and converted into a tourist
Why?
destination. It,
Oh, I see. For the tourist purposes.
yeah, it costs $428 a night to stay at, where visitors always report strange paranormal experiences, such as visions of a man with an axe roaming the halls or the faint screams of children. Whenever I hear the phrase "the faint screams of children," it's something really dodgy about that.
Well, do you know what I can think of now? It's just what a great way to cover up your paedophile ring is just have it underneath a
The
haunted
haunted
house, and
house.
people like I
Yeah.
keep hearing
People will
screams,
pay to listen
and you're
to
like,
it.
ah, oh, the ghosts, the ghosts, the ghosts. No, these kids were really real. Like I swear to God.
But yeah, but in November of 2014, the haunting took a darker turn. Robert Stephen Lawson Jr. was 37 of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, was on a regular recreational paranormal visit. Now that's a weird phrase, isn't it?
Just
A
as a
regular
sentence,
recreational
that's
paranormal
up
visit.
there.
Do you know
What are you
what?
doing this weekend? Nothing unusual, just a
That
regular recreational paranormal.
that is the answer to a question. Name a phrase that would lose you all credibility.
How do
Visit.
you spot someone who doesn't have any friends? The kind of people that gone.
Regular.
What's an irregular
Mate, I
paranormal thing? I just like.
absolute.
Do you know what I mean? What's the definition there?
I don't know. I really don't. But he was
We
with
have lots of new
friends.
hobbies to try.
But they were on a regular recreational paranormal visit with friends when true horror struck. His companions found him stabbed in the chest and apparently self-inflicted wound. They called 911 and Lawson was brought to a nearby hospital before being helicoptered to Creighton University Medical Center in Omaha. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office said Lawson suffered the self-inflicted injury about 12:45 a.m., which is around the same time the 1912 axe murders in the house began. Now, I want to know how they know that. Who was...
Yeah, like.
Lawson recovered from his injuries but never spoke publicly about what occurred. For Martha Lynn, the owner of the home, the incident was very upsetting. It's publicity, but not exactly the kind of publicity you desire to have. I don't want people thinking that when they come to visit the Villisca Axe Murder House, someone's going to try and do something to them. The house remains open for tourist visits and overnight stays to this day.
First of all, I think we've got to commit to doing a pod out there from the Valeska at Snowdon House.
Like, you know, I sort of believe in this stuff. I wouldn't risk spending the night there.
But I think, like,
I'd actually want like a priest with me.
That can be arranged. You can hire them. Oh, I mean, they're not real priests, but they dress.
Is it?
You know, they have.
I was going to say, what is there a dial a priest hotline? It's 666 opposite. No, it's 999. Sorry. No, it can't be 999.
999. Hello, priest, please.
Could you imagine if they went 1 second? And I got put
and the priest. This guy in a church somewhere, like Batman in the Batcave, slides down his pole, slips into his car, and off into the night. Exorcism kit in his car.
Exorcism kit, and like, do you know what? I bet his ringtone is "The power of Christ compels you."
Either that or the Overman music.
Yeah, with what with Tubular Bells on in the background.
I mean, like, as well, that implies that, like, you've got to have like an on-duty priest. So, like,
well, if I'm going somewhere haunted, like, yeah, I want protection.
Also, the idea that you're calling 999 and going, "I want a priest," and they're like, "Okay, what's the emergency?" And you're like, "No, there's no emergency. I'm going on a trip, and I'd just like to have one."
The thing is, I feel embarrassed saying 999, but it's the opposite of 666, which is obviously the number of the devil.
Yeah, why wouldn't you just call 666?
Because you wouldn't have the devil's number as the number you called
the
devil.
What about 777? That's God's number, right? 777.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
All right, well, fine. We'll go 777.
I'm not an expert, but...
Well, Jake, quite frankly, the fact you didn't come prepared...
No, I really want you to call 999 and ask for a priest.
No, do you know what? I'd do a video where I did it, but I genuinely don't believe people should waste their time. So yeah, I'll just.
But okay.
But yeah. So what do you think of the story?
I think a man was going through some serious shit, had some serious mental problems, emotional problems. Went out to this house, and I imagine just the thought of those poor children dying, having their lives cut short, was just enough to push him over the edge and think, "Fuck this world." You know, do some self-harm. And the fact that everyone around him didn't go, "Mate, our friend," what was his name? John or something?
Yeah, John Lanson.
So they're not going like, "John's in a really bad way, man. He came out here and he felt like it was really bad. I didn't realise it was that bad." And then they're like, "Well, is it John?"
No, it's Robert Stephen Lawson Jr.
Okay, Robert. So they're like, "Okay, Bob's in a bad way, man. Think about it, okay? What does he do with his spare time? He doesn't go hang out with any friends, man. He goes to fucking regular paranormal activities. Like, this is not normal. He's having a really tough time." What they've gone is they've gone, "Fuck me, Bob got done up by a ghost." That was where they went straight to.
Well, it doesn't say whether the friends think that's what happened. I think for me, and there's been studies of this sort of thing, people who... There is a link between people with obviously psychosis and having what they believe are paranormal experiences. So I think this is someone who had some level of paranoia or psychosis that left them vulnerable to their own brain's influence, and like what you would like, I think he probably had some sort of experience that he hallucinated, exposing himself to what he believed was a dangerous situation, and I think his mind created that and he ended up hurting himself. I don't think he went there, broke down and hurt himself in terms of a self-harm sort of way. I think it would have been in... We're
both on the understanding that it's a sort of psychological distress that's caused this.
Yeah,
and the guys at the hotel went straight to like, "Fuck me, the ghosts are killing people." Like, they're making them hurt themselves.
I think for me, I could have had some sort of credibility with it being a ghost story if the wounds hadn't been self-inflicted, like it had been done,
related.
But even if it had been like it wasn't self-inflicted, Be like, well, it could have been one of his mates. He could have been banging one of their girlfriends or something. Do you know what I mean? Oh, we're visiting a haunted house. I'll get my own back and stab him.
They could have been banging each other. It could have been a stag do. I don't know.
That would be a weird stag do coming to a haunted hotel.
Do you know what though? It's sort of, it'd work. You could play drinking games. It'd be good fun. Not
Well, I
my
guess
cup of
so.
tea.
No, not for me either, if I'm being honest.
No, but you wouldn't even go there.
No, I wouldn't. Right, do you want me to do another one before you do one of yours, or?
Yeah, no, sure. Hit
Right,
me.
this one is called A Deadly Exorcism.
I love that all yours have got names.
In August 2016 in
This
North
week,
London.
A Deadly Exorcism.
In North London. 26-year-old Kennedy Ife began acting strange and aggressive following a pain in his throat. He reportedly bit his father, threatened to cut off his own penis, and complained of a python or snake. Sorry, the cutting off his own penis, I don't really get it, but and complained of a python or snake inside of him before his family restrained him to the bed with cable ties and excessive force. The family then set about attempting to cure Kennedy through restraint and prayer over the next 3 days, the court was told. Well, I've got to be honest, just off of this bit, we'll pause for a moment. If one of my family members is clearly having a mental breakdown, my first thought isn't tie him down and pray. Do you know what I mean?
And once again, though, what's happened here is you've both, you know, if this was happened to someone in your family and what happened to them, you've both started on the same line. You've both called 999, but they've asked for a priest.
Well, this is the thing. They've not asked for a priest. They've just dealt with it themselves. They thought, you know what? We've got this under control.
Yeah.
His brother Colin Ife told the police, it's clear that that thing was in him that we believed was a demon because it was not natural.
Based on what? Was it clear that there was something in him?
It was clearly trying to kill him. We had to restrain him for himself. It was clear if we didn't restrain him, he would have tried to harm people in our family. But yeah. Kennedy Ife had been bound to his bed for 3 days without medical attention when his brother called emergency services, explaining Kennedy was complaining of dehydration. He appeared to have developed breathing issues and was pronounced dead at 10:17 a.m. that day.
Right, so what's happened is he's had a psychotic episode and they've killed him.
Basically.
And they're saying a demon got into him and then killed him.
Yeah.
Not sure the court will believe that one. Not sure the jury will go for that.
While police were at the house, Colin Ife, his brother, allegedly carried out an attempted resurrection by chanting and praying for Jonathan. All seven of Kennedy. All 7 of Kennedy's family members were accused of manslaughter, false imprisonment, and causing or allowing the death of a vulnerable adult. A post-mortem examination revealed over 60 wounds, including possible bite on Kennedy's body, and his father Kennedy Ife, along with 4 of his brothers, had sustained injuries as well. Kenneth Ife told jurors he ordered his sons to take shifts and use overwhelming force, but denied that an association with cults, occults, and secret societies played a part in his death. After a 4-day jury deliberation, all 7 family members were cleared of charges on March 14th, 2019.
What?
Yeah, so they were all found innocent, basically.
They tied him to a bed and left him there for 3 days without seeing to any of his needs.
I reckon what would have probably happened is their lawyer would have cited their religious beliefs as the reason they did that and why they wouldn't have called a hospital.
Balls to that. They fucking killed him.
Well, no, quite. I agree with you. Like I said, my first instinct wouldn't be, let's get the priest in. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Well, apparently neither was theirs. In the first instance, I love a DIY exorcism. Secondly, if you were a police officer, let's be fair, that would make your day if you went round and you're like, it's really grim, man. There's this dead body, it's a possible murder situation, kidnap situation, and you go there and there's a bloke trying to resurrect him by doing a chant, you'd be like, made my day. Made my day.
I think what I dislike about it is I think the dad or one of the parents must have had a very tight grip over that family. I think he probably abused them as children, which left one of them with serious psychological issues. I think, like a lot of people, it was under the guise of religion, and he was sort of their religious leader and familiar leader in that family. And then I reckon the son had a breakdown. He convinced them that an exorcism was a way to go, but that they would do it themselves. But something must have switched after 3 days that one of the brothers called the emergency services.
I reckon that was coming for a long time. I reckon one of them, if not more, wanted to call the police from minute one. And then, yeah, and I reckon probably the dad was like, no, this is a demon, he's possessed. We'll deal with it. We'll get him out. We'll save him. And then,
Absolutely.
it kept building. And then obviously 3 days was the breaking point that was like, no, enough's enough, man. Fuck that.
Yeah. No, I agree.
There's a lot of just abuse and exploitation of vulnerable people on this list.
Yeah, but I don't think that's uncommon. I think if vulnerable people are in a dangerous situation, something bad is likely to happen. But right, are you ready to...
drop me to...
Yes.
Drop some knowledge.
Drop some knowledge by all means.
Okay, so this one... this is a guy telling his personal story. Said my house was absolutely fraught with weird stuff happening when we first moved in. Kitchen table would move overnight anywhere between a foot and a half. Keys would disappear and then show up in like the weirdest places, like where we kept the quilts. He said my son went into the basement and things came like falling off the shelves in his direction. He also saw someone on our porch once, but there was actually no one there. He said one day I was sweeping the floor and the door to the porch started going absolutely mental. He said the dogs, who would absolutely jump at anyone, suddenly backed away, really scared and terrified. And they were just staring at the door, terrified. And then anyway, nothing came of it. It sort of all calmed down. And he said the best one for me is that one morning he walked into the kitchen table because it had moved from the night before. And he said... and he'd done that a few times because it kept moving. He kept walking into it. And he just sort of said, can you please stop moving the kitchen table out loud to no one? And it never moved again. So what do you make of that?
The first thing that came into my mind was sleepwalking. Someone in that house is sleepwalking and just doing weird shit while they're asleep.
A polite and respectful sleepwalker, though. When he said, can you not move the table? They just went subconsciously like, yeah, okay.
Well, that makes me think it's him.
Maybe.
Because there was a story I read online once, it was supposed to be a scary story, of this guy who kept waking up, couldn't remember what had happened, and was finding post-it notes everywhere, and was also finding them in like the hallway of the apartment building he lived in. Some of them would be blank, some of them would have information on them, and they were in his handwriting. He went to a psychologist and they couldn't get to the root of it. But what it turned out is there was a very small and slow carbon monoxide leak in his apartment building, and it was causing him to black out. But while he was blacked out, he would leave messages for himself so that he would remember what happened.
Except it didn't work because he didn't remember.
Yeah.
So he's got some communication issues.
So I think that one is most likely it's someone, if not him, sleepwalking or something like that.
Got to be pretty strong to move a table subconsciously.
Yeah.
What about the basement? Stuff flying off the shelves at the kid.
Oh, the thing is, you don't know. The thing is, I've seen some weird stuff. Yeah, I think I'd probably put it down to that. It's really hard because I believe in some stuff, I don't believe in others. For me to have like a real opinion on it, I'd need to meet them and hear them talk about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to get a gauge on whether they genuinely believed it or whether...
Yeah, but even then, experience something as a child, you can make yourself believe something happened the way it did.
True,
So
absolutely.
it's hard to tell. I would put it more down to overactive imagination and sleepwalking.
Yeah, me too. But anyway, just before I put it out there, I quite like the
No,
fact
no.
that his subconscious respected that and stopped moving things.
Yeah, no, 100%. Right, would you like another one?
Of course.
You might have heard of this one because it was on the news and it sort of did the rounds on Facebook and stuff like that. But it's called The Death of Elisa Lam. Elisa Lam was last seen on January the 31st, 2013, in the lobby of the Cecil Hotel in downtown LA. She was vacationing through the West Coast, documenting the trip on her blog and checking in with her parents every day. On January the 31st, those calls stopped. Lam had vanished. Soon the police were involved and the parents arrived to help with the search. They had nothing until that February, LAPD released elevator surveillance footage of Lam before her disappearance. And this is what did the rounds on Facebook. It was this girl acting really weirdly in this elevator, looking like someone was coming after her.
All right.
The footage shows Lam behaving strangely in the elevator, appearing to talk with invisible people, peering around the corner of the door, crouching in the corner, and opening and closing the door. But what exactly is going on in this video raises more questions and answers. Theories range from psychotic episodes to demonic possession to unknown assailants just out of the camera's view. Around that time, hotel guests started to report weird things happening with the Cecil Hotel water supply. The shower was awful, said Sabrina Bohr, who spent 8 days there during the investigation. When you turned the tap on, the water was coming black first for 2 seconds, and then it was going back to normal. The tap water tasted horrible. It had a very funny, sweaty, disgusting taste. It was a very strange taste. I can barely describe it. But for a week, they never complained. We didn't think anything of it. We just thought it was how it was there. On the morning of February 19th, a hotel employee climbed to the roof and used a ladder to investigate the hotel's water storage tanks. That's where the authorities found the decomposing naked body of Lam, whose personal items were found nearby. After an autopsy, her death was labelled accidental. But yeah, and they talk about the strange circumstances of the hotel's past. The tank has a metal latch that can be opened, but authorities said the access to the roof was secured by an alarm lock. The single room occupancy hotel has an unusual history. The Night Stalker Richard Ramirez, who was found guilty of 14 murders in the 1980s, lived on the 14th floor. And international serial killer Jack Unterweger is suspected of murdering 3 prostitutes during the time he lived there, and he killed himself in jail in 1994. But yeah, basically they're saying it's a creepy hotel, and she ended up dead naked in a water tank at the top of the hotel.
First of all, before I get to my sort of analysis of the actual incident, can I just say what a world we live in, where footage gets released and theories range from genuine valid theories to demonic possession.
It's a hard one because spirituality is something that's been part of humanity since day dot, really. So I think there's validity in some things and not in others. But it's, I don't know, sometimes I find it really hard to instantly dismiss it.
To me, immediate theory comes to mind. She was probably given some kind of drugs.
Yeah.
Hence the kind of hallucinogenic episode in the lift.
Mm.
I think she was given drugs by someone who intended to kill her. And I think that was a hotel employee, hence their access to the roof, hence their knowledge about the tank and that. And it may well have even been the bloke who went up and checked it, because he probably thought a couple of months has passed. If I'm the one that checks it, I'm not going to be the one who did it. You know, they won't think I'm the one who.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's a good shout. I mean, genuinely, I don't have any idea. I lean towards someone murdered her because I don't see why you would naked climb up a ladder and climb into a water tank, and then where did the ladder go? And you know, so no, I think it's definitely someone's murdered her.
Yeah, and I think if you are into that and you're into killing, you know, we're humans. We like a bit of superstition. Going to somewhere that's synonymous with murderers is like a.
Well, you might even find it's some sort of weird, perverse copycat sort of person that was living there to get off on the idea people could have been murdered there. And
yeah, I mean, she's not the first body to have been found in a hotel's water tank.
No, that's true.
So
no, that's very true.
The possibilities, but I think definitely an employee.
But I think I probably agree with you. I've seen the footage though, and it is really creepy. So yeah, I would say that.
What do you make of it then? I mean, you've seen it, and you're less skeptical.
I don't know. She does behave very oddly, but the idea of her being drugged would definitely explain the behaviour. But she looks genuinely frightened. She doesn't 100% seem with it. And yeah, it's just a very eerie video. There's definitely something going on. But as to what that is, I don't know.
I wonder why they waited till February to release it.
Maybe they hoped it would stir people to go, oh, her, yeah, I did see something weird, or, you know, to jog people's memories, maybe.
In a murder case, you know, they always say the first 24 hours, the first 48 hours are like key, absolutely key. And therefore, you know, you put it out as soon as you suspect foul play, you put it out and you say, we're looking for whoever did this. I don't know, like, I'm not suggesting there's anything foul play there involved at all.
No, it's a tough one. No, it's very odd.
Do you want me to drop another one?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay, so this was shared on Reddit. One day when my daughter was 2, we were having a typical terrible twos moment. She was throwing a bit of a tantrum for about 5 or 10 minutes, and we could not get her under control. At some point, though, she just sort of suddenly stopped and started staring at the wall. Then she started sort of giggling a little bit, and it was really weird, and it freaked us out because one minute she's crying and screaming, and the next she's really smiling and happy. And then she started saying, funny lady, funny lady, funny lady, just over and over again, and laughing and staring at the wall. We asked her who she saw, and she pointed to the wall, and she said, the funny lady. And we said, well, there's nothing, we can't see anything. Can you describe her to us?
Yeah.
And she described my deceased grandmother, and she exactly described her. It was freaky, the amount of detail she went into, and she'd never met her. My grandmother died before she was born. She'd never met her before. And she said, and anyway, like, it was really creepy. We try not to think about it too much because both myself and my partner are very skeptical, so we didn't really put anything in it. But anyway, she said a little while later she told her parents that, because she was like, oh, do you want to hear this funny, you know, it's a unique thing, you tell them. And her mum apparently wasn't fazed by it. And I said, like, what, you know, are you not going to say anything more on it? And her mum just said to me and said, like, actually, you obviously don't remember this, but the same thing happened to you when you were 3. You saw your grandfather, who you'd never met, who died before you was born.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Yeah, I think with those ones, it's a tough one because you could easily explain it by saying, well, they must have seen a photo at some point or something to see them. But there is also...
the paranormal stuff it's harder to get away with in this day and age than it was 100 or 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I suppose the technology now means that subconsciously we take it a lot more...
I haven't checked the actual stuff on it, but I've been told quite a few times that it is quite well known children tend to work on a different frequency, or they're more open to things than we are as adults. So they're more likely, if anyone's going to see anything, it would be children.
Which, of course, is an immediate thing for a skeptic, because it's like, well, they're the least reliable, least credible source.
Well, quite. But it's a weird one. I mean, my logical side of me says it's probably more likely the little girl has seen a picture of her great-grandmother at some point, and for whatever reason, at that moment, that's who she saw and made her feel better. But it is weird that in that situation, that's what would stop her crying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't know, I suppose, is my honest answer.
I suppose the hereditary thing is the obvious answer, but the idea that her mum had a similar experience as a child.
Yeah.
So there's obviously, their brains obviously work in a very similar way. It seems.
Yes. Yeah, it seems that way, but it's a weird one because it's hard because, like I said, I do believe in some of it a little bit, but like I said, I have a logical side of my brain that's like, well, no, there has to be something.
A reason, a way out, an explanation.
I would say in that situation, it could be her mum imagines that she had that situation when she was a kid. I don't know.
Well, her parents said it. Her parents told her.
Oh, okay.
Her parents said, "Oh, you obviously don't remember, but same thing happened to you when you were about her age. You saw your grandfather when you were 3."
I honestly don't know.
Their brains just work.
Yeah, maybe it's something to do with the way their brains are wired.
Consciously take the information and.
Yeah, possibly. No, I don't know what I think of that one.
Good, that's what we want. That's what the whole point of the paranormal is, the unexplained, the difficult to explain anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's explanations for some of it, but as to why both of them had the same experience is odd. And there's no reason for the parents to lie or anything, or for them to have imagined it, or both to have imagined it.
No, although of course there is the idea that they're just on a wind-up. Always a possibility.
Yeah, I guess so. But then you'd ask, well, what purpose would that serve other than just creeping their daughter out?
That's enough of a purpose.
I guess so. It's just weird. Right. Right. This story is called Sloss Furnaces in Birmingham, Alabama.
Sloss Furnaces, as read by Andrew Scott.
Birmingham, Alabama was founded in 1871, 5 years after the Civil War, and with it they need tons of pig iron to fix America's crumbling infrastructure. To satisfy the demand, Colonel James Withers Sloss started construction on the Sloss furnaces. A year later, the company opened the doors to hundreds of employees, according to its official website. Working on blast furnaces was an advanced job, and it was also dangerous. That danger was soon realised as many workers started being incinerated in the furnaces and falling to their deaths. Conditions only worsened in the early 1900s after a cruel foreman, James, and then it has in air quotes, slag Wormwood, took the job of Sloss. That's a weird thing to nickname a man. Do you know what I mean? But anyway,
he might have been slag though. We don't know.
Wormwood took dangerous risks in order to increase production. As a result, nearly 50 employees died on site, and many were involved in terrible accidents during this tenure. Allegedly, in retaliation, his workers tossed him into the furnace in 1906. You can still tour the grounds today if you dare. While there, you might just hear the voice of Slag telling his employees to get back to work, along with other paranormal occurrences. Sloss even hosts a Fright Night every year around Halloween that's based heavily on the Slag story. You lose all credibility when the character's called Slag.
The thing is, it's such a I don't know what slag is in America. I don't know. Certainly in the late 19th century, I don't know what slag is. But to us, it's a very London thing.
You slag.
You slag. Oh, you slag.
It's basically like you cheeky bastard, isn't it? So it's like they were saying.
Be like, even the kind of the slightly before us, the kind of slightly less regional version of slag, where slag is just someone
You've
who
slept with
sleeps
a lot
around,
of
a
people.
slapper.
Yeah,
Yeah, you see
yeah,
fucking, that bloke's fucking slag. That's what you
yeah.
think. You're like, oh, slag, but you never call anyone slag. You'd be like, you'd say you slag, but you never say, oh, I'll slag. You'd say slaggy, oh, slaggy,
It's such a
slagger.
weird conversation, isn't it? Like, he's not that sort of slag. He's this sort of slag.
Yeah, you call him slagger, slaggy. You can call
Yeah,
him
but again,
slag.
that's not something we typically call men. Do you
No,
know what I mean?
also, can I just say, there was something that immediately struck me, by the way, was when you said you can still visit the site.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I just say firmly, absolutely not. I do not want to go to Alabama.
Is that because of how conservative they are?
And inbred. It's just not something that I wish to. It's like redneck capital, isn't it?
I thought we weren't insulting people anymore.
It's a crossing sort of tradition. I just feel it wouldn't be right if we didn't take a swing at someone.
No, fair enough. I think I wouldn't pay to go there, if that makes sense. It's like most of these things. Like, if I happened upon them and I had a spare day, I might be like, oh yeah, why not? But like, I'm not paying money to go for a tour of.
Yeah, you're not making it your trip.
No, I'm not going. If I'm going to America for the first time, it isn't going to be to go to Alabama to visit Sloss furnaces. Do you know what I mean? I'd have other things top of my list, I would imagine, before that.
Yeah, no, I wonder what slag sounds like. See, I can't as a Londoner, I cannot say the
No,
word
I
slag.
just went London. I was trying to do an American accent, and I
Yeah.
instantly went London.
You slag? You just can't do it. It just doesn't
You
work.
sounded Australian then.
I know you can't do it because you can't do it. You just got to be like, listen,
And do
here,
you know
you
what that
slag.
makes me think of? That makes me think of that road trip to Bournemouth when we were with our mutual friend. And we were doing the accents
Oh
game.
yes.
And we said,
yes.
do Danny like
No, because we did stuff like that. Because we were like, okay, do so and so, and they came out. Just the guy was just doing his normal London voice, and we were like, okay, do so and so, and like Schwarzenegger, and he was just doing his own London voice. We were like, okay, fine, let's pick someone from London so that you can do this, so that we can give you a win.
So we picked Danny Dyer, didn't we? And he then suddenly went Liverpudlian, and we were like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
And it was like, "Oh, I'm Danny Dyer," and you're like, "Well, who the fuck's that?" So Schwarzenegger sounds like this, but Danny Dyer, who sounds more like this, actually sounds, "Oh, no, anyway, it's Danny Dyer. Get out of my pub." Like, I don't know where it came from. It's so fucked. It's so funny.
No.
It was so funny.
Right, what were we talking about? So the word slag. Yeah.
You know what? We've had many conversations about slags, but none of them like this.
Well, just because a woman is liberal with her affections does not make her a slag, Jake. It's, it's 2021, bro.
I just want you to point her in a brother's direction.
Get hashtag
I just want you to point her out. I just want you to point her out.
I'm not sending her off to get emotionally, physically, and mentally abused. I'm sorry.
I don't do that anymore. Not all in one.
She don't deserve it, Jake. She deserves better than that. If I'm sending her anywhere, I'm sending her to Ash.
Wow. Wow.
Right, on that note, we'll move on to another one, and it might be our last one. We'll see how we get on. This one is The Bell Witch from Adams, Tennessee. If you're a scary movie lover, you might actually know about The Bell Witch. The films An American Haunting and The Blair Witch Project are both based on this story. Way back in the early 1800s, a man named John Bell moved his family to an area of Tennessee called Red River, which is now known as Adams, Tennessee. After they had settled in the new home, some peculiar things started happening. The Bell family began hearing some bizarre noises, including dogs barking, chains rattling, rats chewing, and a woman whispering. Soon that woman became known as the Bell Witch, and many people believe she is the ghost of a former neighbour of the Bells, Kate Batts. Batts and the Bells had a dispute over land, and she had sworn vengeance on the Bell family before she died. Later on, Bell died from poisoning and is rumoured to be the work of the Bell Witch.
So she somehow poisoned him beyond the grave.
Apparently. Could
Or
just be his wife.
just
He
had
could have
enough
just
of him.
been a bit of a bell
Yeah.
end. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, or his wife had enough of him and was like, oh, do you know what? These are superstitious people. The witch cursed him. If I kill him now, scot-free. Absolutely scot-free. They'll be like, oh, the witch, the witch. Love it. Eat that, you cunt.
Wow. Well, that one was pretty shit. Should we move on to another one?
Yeah, sure.
Right, this one's called Huggin' Molly in Abbeville, Alabama. It's best to say when the sun sets in Abbeville, Alabama, if you want to avoid hugging Molly's chilly embrace, as the legend goes, beginning in the early 1900s. An
Can I just
oversized...
say, by the way,
Right.
that hugging Molly just sounds like a euphemism for taking drugs.
It does a little bit, doesn't it? As the legend goes, an oversized figure clad in all black began roaming the streets at night looking for unsuspecting victims. Once she
Could just be you in your god face.
Once she fixates on someone, she hugs the person and screams ever so loudly into their ears. Many people have recounted stories of being chased by what they believe was hugging Molly. Local parents have even taken advantage of the story to keep their children in line. The town embraces its nighttime warden proudly, calling itself the home of Huggin' Molly. There's even a family-friendly restaurant named after her.
Okay, I've got one question.
What's that?
How do you keep your children in line by telling them about a story about a woman who's going to come and hug them?
Well, I suppose they're
really
like...
bad, she'll come
Well, no, but this woman like screams and scares them, I guess.
Also, like, where's the paranormal thing? It might just be a mentally deranged woman walking around town hugging people.
Well, no, it sounds like it's something that's been going on for a long time. I guess it's probably something... It probably originates with a woman from a local asylum that escaped and early one morning scared the shit out of some people. And it just went from there. And her name was Molly. What happened? She hugged and screamed at me. You know, just...
And to be honest as well, like, I guess I'd like to just put in that I think it's nice that there's a ghost story out there that is a nice, positive ghost. You know, there's no killing, there's no manipulation. It's just a hug. Just comes up, hugs you. Sure, she screams, but she's got, you know, it's been a long time since she's had human interaction, like decent human interaction, okay? Her social skills are not at the top game. It's just a nice hug.
I love how understanding you are of the ghost, Jake.
I think me and Molly would be friends. I think we'd get on really well.
Fair enough. Well, all right. I'll tell you what. This will probably
sounds like drugs.
I guess so. Like, what do you reckon? People have been out in the middle of the night tripping on whatever, and have just
hugging lampposts and shit, and screaming at each other, and being like, "Oh my god, there was a lady that hugged me and screamed."
Yeah, that was my mum. She's a bit of a weird one. We can't afford a home.
But yeah, anyway, sorry.
No, that's all right. We'll probably do one more. I know I said that earlier, but we've still got a little bit of time. Probably do one more and then wrap things up. But this one is called The Ghost of Deer Island in Biloxi, Mississippi. Back on May 20th, 1922, Anthony Ragusin, a.k.a. Mr. Tony, I don't know why they needed to add that, but Mr. Tony, relayed this tale in a column in the Sun Herald. He writes that in the early 1800s, two fishermen spent the night on Deer Island off Biloxi's coast. They heard noises that they ignored until it became impossible to do so. When they went to see what was causing the ruckus, they claimed they found a headless skeleton that ran after the pair. They immediately made a beeline for their boat and got off the island immediately. It's said that the bony frame belongs to a pirate who had his head chopped off by his captain, and his body was left behind as a ghastly guard to watch over the buried treasure.
I mean, first of all, slow news day or what? They let Mr. Tony the paper.
But also, why was he called Mr. Tony? Do you know what I mean? That's just weird.
That's a good nickname.
Like, Mr. Tony sounds like a paedophile. Do you know what I mean?
I hadn't considered that aspect.
No, but does it not? Like, am I not?
But it's definitely a weird video.
Yeah, like
Yeah, it does a little bit.
sounds like a paedophile. I'm
It
sorry.
sounds like a nickname.
I have a friend called Tony, and he's got 2 lovely kids. He's a lovely bloke. He's not a paedophile, but he doesn't walk around calling himself Mr. Tony. Do you know what I mean?
I know, but I might start. Mr.
No,
Tony.
but the
Sounds
thing
like
is, you're
bad
making
English,
it too
doesn't it?
sexual.
Mr. Tony, Mr. Tony.
Right, so now you're just
I
being
can't help but I
racist.
give off that kind of power. Yes, I am. I've already done Alabama. Now the rest of the world.
But right, so what I find weird about that story is that they went straight to there's a pirate that's haunting this island. Like, is there any evidence in a nearby area that pirates ever visited Biloxi, Mississippi, or was this just a random
Yeah, I'm not
pirate
sure
that thought,
pirates got that far up the
"Arr,
river,
it's
did
a
they?
place to bury me treasure"? Do you know what I mean? Like, I just
Maybe the buried treasure was like modern piracy. It was like £5 DVD.
yeah, just a stash of old DVDs that have all been copied.
Avatar with someone's photocopied the cover of.
Brilliant, absolutely. Um,
But it has rings of Brokeback Mountain as well to me.
what? Like, what?
Two fishermen have gone out to spend some time on the island together.
What do you reckon?
Alone.
They drank a bit too much, dropped some Molly, hugged each other. It got weird, and one thing led to another.
They're
One
right,
of them
we need
gets their
to
cock
we
out, and
need
they're like,
to
"This needs to stop."
we need to manly this up. They're like, we need to. How do we do that? We'll have an encounter with a ghost. Okay,
Well,
but
do you know what? The one
kind of
thing
ghost?
that would make it
Pirate,
less gay
pirate
is if he
ghost.
wasn't talking to him with the other one's cock in his mouth. Do you know what I mean?
There's happening, pirates. They were like, "Hey, come check these guys out." Making
Those
love.
are,
And they
what would
called all
make
their
this
pirate
less
friends.
gay?
How
Stop
do we
doing
make
that,
this
mate.
less gay? Yeah, bent over all fours. We need to make this just a little less gay. How do we tone this down?
We watch wrestling while it's on. No, that's still gay.
We do wrestling.
We wrestle and accidentally have sex.
Happens. It does happen. You and I both know that. It's happened on numerous occasions.
Yeah, so I think in general, I think I'm far more sceptical of ghost stories now than I used to be. But some of them are just like...
Why do you think that is? Shit, there's a reason for that.
I think I'm a bit more sceptical now. And I think I'm less frightened of spiritual stuff than I was when I was perhaps a teenager. So now it doesn't scare me as much.
Yeah, maybe,
so then, therefore, it seems more fake to me now, I guess.
It's fake news.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah,
by the way,
maybe.
as time of recording, whoop whoop, he's no longer the president.
Well, you say at time of recording, you say that as if there's a chance that by the time this goes out, he's going to be back in charge.
Can you imagine, mate? We have a habit of when we record this and we mention big world events, and we're like, any day now this could happen, or something like that.
Does happen.
It happens like the day before we release in the episode, or do you know what I mean?
I've got this picture in my head of just Trump going up to the White House and sort of them being like, no, you don't give any money. He's like, no, I forgot my keys. And they're like, okay, go on in. And then a couple of days later, he's just like sitting at the Oval Office desk, just being like, what? I don't know what you...
I'm still the president. And Biden's like, and he's like, but Joe,
Biden
you're
in the
always
corner,
number two. And he's just like, okay, fair enough.
Yes, sir. He's just in the corner. He's like talking to his wife. He's like, he's been here for 2 days. I don't know what to do.
I just love the idea that I could end up seeing Trump being thrown out. And they're like, sir, you no longer live here.
It's like, that's fake news.
He's like, they robbed the election.
Do you know what I can fully see, just to bring it a bit full circle, I can fully see Trump being part of ghost stories 100 years from now in the White House. People just seeing flashes of orange.
And women feeling Like they're being grabbed by the genitals. I mean, no,
Yeah,
sorry, no.
flashes of orange and a grip around the, you know.
They're what's-its.
I don't know why I stopped at the word pussy, considering I've already said cunt earlier in the episode.
No, but the weird thing was, it was the hand thing you did, like, it was sort of like the J. Cartwright, feed the pony. It was a little bit like that, which was creepy.
I could just imagine that happening 100 years from now, just women being like, you know why you felt that, don't you? Why? Okay, so 100 years ago, there was this president, and the rumour has that
he either liked grabbing women by their vaginas or being pissed on.
Either or both. But we don't kink shame. We Donald shame, but we don't kink shame.
I don't get the pee thing though. I really don't. I'll tell you what, guys. Please write in if you know someone who, like, if you have a friend who's into golden showers and stuff like that, wet work, I believe it's called. Then please write in and let us know what it is they're into, what they enjoy
what
about.
appeals to you. And we can
and that's a good idea because episode 69 we're talking about sex. So by all means, talk to us about your golden showers,
sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good. No, I'll stop.
You sounded weirdly like you were trying to sound like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, a little bit. Sometimes when I think of sex, I think of Michael Jackson. Is that weird?
A little bit weird. And on that note, I think it's as good as any to tell the people where they can find us. Jake, it will be somewhere around.
You can find us. It will be somewhere on the display. It'll be at Crossing Swords on Facebook, at Swords Crossing on Twitter, at Crossing Swords _podcast on Instagram, and crossingsword19@gmail.com if you want to email us and tell us about your friend who has a pee fetish and what it is they find appealing about it.
Absolutely. And on that wonderful golden shower of information, please stay safe and look after yourselves.
And if you see any ghosts, you know what to do. We don't. We haven't given you any useful information in that department.
Call a priest at 999.
Call a priest 999. Call a priest 999. Hello, priest, please. You are welcome.
They will put you through to the Vatican. The Vatican, I promise.
It's everyone knows 999. You get fire, ambulance, police, priests. Everyone knows that.
And on that note, who are you going to call?
Priest. But just make sure, when you think about it, remember that it's 999 and it's not like 696, because that's a different number. That gets you through. That goes through to me. That's my number. But please, if you're in,
don't forget to ask for Big Mike.
If you're in a scary situation, dial 999 straight away and ask for the priest, please. Please, yes. Guys, take our advice and be safe.
Take care.
Bye.